Hello, hello, everyone. It's Lennon, and I want to talk about the aces today. When I first started my tarot journey, I'll call it, the aces held such questions for me that I found them to be probably the hardest cards to learn because all I kept seeing was potential this, potential of their elements, you know, things like that in blogs that I would read, in videos that I would watch, and nothing concrete, not a concrete meaning. And I know that a lot of tarot cards that in and of themselves, there would be a lot of emphasis on, there's no such thing as a concrete meaning. And I kind of feel this way about there not being concrete meanings in some of these cards because they're just so complex. But it took me a long time to figure that out. That when I would look at these cards, it didn't fill me with, oh, this is going to be easy. It filled me with dread, and it filled me with, if this one of these, beautiful cards would come up in a reading, I would feel like, God, I just don't know what this means. And I don't know if this has happened to anyone else. I found the aces to be so problematic for me that it was hard to even have readings for myself, because all I would think is, okay, in a reading, this would come up, say it's the Ace of Swords, and this reading would come up, and I would think, there's all these other cards. I would neglect this card, completely neglect it, because I was finding it so hard to find the meaning, to find the hidden, what was this potential everyone was talking about? What does that specifically mean? And I've had to learn and grow and evolve with the aces, and I've kind of had to adopt them in a sense, adopt them as my friends, I guess you could say. And I watched a lot of videos and, like I said before, blogs and articles about tarot in general when I was learning. And what I heard really, really helped me. And I think it was a video from, golly, it was so long ago, probably 8 years ago now. And this tarot reader was talking about the hands, these hands of God, these hands of the divine, that, we're talking in the Golden Dawn type of a mindset, that these type of a traditional mindset, these hands would be the hands of the divine, hands of Keter, because on the Tree of Life, in terms of Kabbalah, all the aces are from the Sephiroth of Keter, which is the divine light, the light at the very top, the light we all strive for in a spiritual practice. And it, like I said, it took so long for me to get to this place, but what I had to essentially do with the aces is start at that bare minimum, which is what that one word that everyone kept saying is potential. And then I would add things like what I would read, I would like circle it about the aces, like maybe in a guidebook somewhere, maybe an Ian Daniels guidebook or Rachel Pollack book. I would have to continue to go back to the aces to really even figure out, like, to put layers on them. And then once I had layers, I was building a cake, right? I was making and building this cake. And when I first started, it was like I had nothing. I had no ingredients. I had nothing that would make the cake actually come about. And it took me several years to find out that in order to make a cake, you have to have some ingredients. And then as you're growing, because I'm an eternal student with the tarot, I'm always evolving, always learning and changing, and finding new meanings, that it took me a while to know that I could bake my cake, have all the ingredients, all the bare essentials, but then I could also add icing, and I could add decorations and cherries and whipped cream and whatever. And it took all of that for me to even formulate to where to generate a good place within a reading that I could understand. And I wanted to just just basically chat about this for a second, because I really think that when I started, and the feeling of, what do I do with this? Now back to the hands that I was talking about before. this person was so eloquent in the way they were talking about the hands of God and how you can really see the personality of the card when looking at the hands, right? Now, if we're talking in masculine versus feminine, like system thinking, the tarot does a lot of this, has done a lot of this kind of system thinking over the years. That there's 2 masculine cards and then there's 2 feminine cards. Basically, that just means that there is drive cards and then there's active cards and then there's receptive cards. There's passive cards. And I don't like to dub either one of those into severe categories, but it did help me into understanding it. If you look at the 2 masculine cards, okay, they are gripping these phallic symbols in a way that would make you think that there is some drive there, especially with the Ace of Wands. The grip that it is kind of a more passive grip than the Ace of Swords, right? They do have a firm grip on it. That thumb is there. You know, you can't just grip a bird like this, right? Those types of kind of things. So when I looked at the hands and I just forgot everything else for a second, I thought, oh my goodness, okay. So with the Ace of Wands, it's a gentle hold, but it's a firm hold. They're not letting go of this wand anytime soon. So like I thought of that. I thought of the grip of the Ace of Swords. This is a fierce grip. This is a Aragorn. Okay, he's wielding the sword of Gondor, right? This is a firm grip, and unlike this, like this card, they both have a grip into which they will not let go of these phallic symbols, but I feel that they're different. There are different energies here. This almost not too severe of a hold is still a very firm hold. This is almost a step above that. This is literally a step above that. You really have to have an even firmer grasp on this realm. And they play in and tie in together very nicely, I think. But then I want to look at, then I look at these cards. These feminine, right? This passive, even though I don't like that word with the feminine. But these passive cards are gently, nurturingly holding their symbols. With the Pentacles, I really like to think of the Queen of Pentacles when I think of this card. I mean, we see the garden, right? I think that someone had mentioned one time that this is going back to the Garden of Eden. This is going back to the paradise that is you. What is the paradise that you hold so dear to your heart? Is it your home, your home and hearth? Is it the friends that you make? Is it the coworkers that you have? Like, what is your bread and butter in terms of the Pentacles for you? Is your Eden, is your paradise. And this card encompasses the whole garden. And I really liked that. And how beautiful the hand here is. It's a cupping. It's a general cupping. Holding that pentacle like this is allowing that nurturing energy to come forth. And you can actually cup it in your hand. Which we would think, and I thought, that would probably look more, that needs to be how the cup is. But with the cups, we're wanting the water to flow. The dove is coming down and it's, it's filling the cup. Basically, I think that I always thought the dove was filling the cup with the water. But as we can see, that the water is spilling out of the cup. So if we're cupping it, then we're only allowing for the little bit of water that we are getting. So with this more of a flat, open hand, we are allowing our emotions to pour out, our feelings to just pour out. And sometimes we need that, right? We need our emotions not to just be sitting right here in our hands, but to free flow sometimes. And to get a better grasp of how we feel about certain things. And sometimes we have to cry it all out. Sometimes we have to rage it all out. Whatever the case is that sometimes we need that extra boost of letting the emotions flow. And I feel that this hand is a better, gives me a better mental picture with that than this. Like I said, I really thought that for a while, the cup suit, the cup ace hand should look like this. The hand of God should look like this. But then I kept meditating on that, and I kept going back to the feeling that no, I would like the water to flow through my hands. You know, you can't tell, but I think that some of the fingers must be open. And I liked looking at the hands to help me generate more of a actual like picture in my mind. Like maybe an imagination scene comes about with all of these and what that might look like, right? I always, with this crown and the like seaweed and the ivy coming off of it, I always think of Little Mermaid and her grotto, like those, her special place with all of her things, and they have seaweed and there's just all kinds of things on there. I kind of think of that. I don't know why, but that's what I mean. I had to form layers and build my ingredients list to even get to a place where I could form good meanings for these, so where they could work for me in readings. Like with the Ace of Wands, so much power with this. I have so much powerful thoughts with this card. This vitality, maybe even fertility, we're bringing something into fruition. We're using what we have, using our wands to generate something. And I liked thinking of that too. This is what the hands taught me. This is a beginning and an ending. And I had to think of the aces that way as well, that this is not just number one, this is all of them. And just like Keter on the Tree of Life, it is 1 and 10 and all of them and all of it together. And I just had to keep thinking that in my mind. The Ace of Cups, however, is that intuitive thing. Like when we think of this in, like I said before, system thinking, and how if this is power and drive, think of the Emperor, then the Ace of Cups would be very much the Empress kind of a feeling. This intuitive, like this Venus-like figure I keep thinking of. And it's filling the cup with love and yearning and inspiration. I want to feel like all of that will come and I'm not gripping it too hard. The Ace of Swords, again, there's a firm grip with them. I always think of change when I think of the sword suit. It's like things change. The only inevitability of life is change. And that's like the mantra I have for the suit of swords. There's change in progress, knowledge in progress. It kind of reminds me of the secret Sephiroth Dyot on the Tree of Life. Something big is happening. And regardless of what card you get in the swords, you have to know that the change is coming whether you want it or not. And some of the cards in the suit even reflect that. Sometimes I think of a change in thought patternings, a change that we are spearheading our brains with this. Maybe something comes about and it changes the way we think about something else. That's that sword. That's why there's a crown. I think that's why there's a crown here. Because this blade is in our body, is in our spinal cord, and it leads up to our brain. And we have to let it. But sometimes it's going to happen whether we want it to or not, because of how gripped this hand of God is. How the truth may set us free, but we may not want it to. We want to stay locked in our world. And then the Ace of Pentacles, this beautiful, I keep talking. I fell in love with the Ace of Pentacles because I just felt that what is my life now resonates more with this suit in general. But I always found it a symbol of the earth, manifestation, getting results, attainments. Like the way they're holding this pentacle, it's all about attainment. What are we manifesting? What are we setting our intentions for to manifest, to make our realm, our earthly realm, a better place for us? And I think of those things as well. It could also be materialism in a sense, that sometimes the suit itself has messages for us in terms of, yes, hearth and home and manifestation. Are we buying too many things? Are we let's look at the shadow aspects of this as well. But all I want to do when I look at this card is go down this path into the garden and meet the Red Queen. And then another thing, like I just said with the garden, is that I really had to look at the landscape of the card. Is this beautiful garden, it does show so much earthiness in this card that you just want to be there. And then this mountain, I think of, again, the misty mountains of the Lord of the Rings. I find so much healing in a top of the mountain. Let's say you've been on top of a mountain or a top of a cliff or something, and you see this vista, right? And the wind is so fierce that you really can't hear anything but the wind. And this, that's what I think of when I think of this. Is this card is that feeling. Some of your senses getting knocked out for you to gain some clarity. Because when you're up there and you can't hear anything and all you see is this beautiful vista out in front of you, you realize how small you are. You realize how connected we are and how disconnected we are, and that all of it is normal. So I think of that. Now with the Ace of Wands, I love that this castle is way back here in the distance, because what that tells me is that from my vantage point, I'm seeing this hand of God with this wand, right? And I see the castle off in the distance. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to the castle. I'm starting a journey to the castle. And I love that. Now with this is the most, I don't want to say non-actionable, but to me it is. Because when I look at this, I'm in the water, right, with these lily pads. What am I going to do in the water? I'm just going to wade, right? I'm just going to float there and wait on the frogs to jump up on these lily pads. Listen to the sound of the rushing water up the creek. Maybe I'm floating downriver with the current. Maybe I'm just sitting there and it's a deep creek, right? Or a deep lake, and I'm floating on a float. But that's that feeling of just being in the water and letting it all pour out with my hair flowing. There's so much, like I said, that goes into the aces for me. They just held so many questions and dread, and I had no idea that I needed them, that we do need them. We need them to teach us about the suit. We need them to teach us the potential, but it may be hard at first, and I think that is the message of the whole ace, all the aces, is there's some meditation that needs to be involved, and there's some contemplation that you must face to even get to these realms. And then I think once we do that, we get better with the whole suits. So I just wanted to come on and gently talk to you about the aces and how much trouble they gave me in the beginning, and how much I've learned with them, meditating with them and flying out into all these landscapes in my mind's eye. How much that's helped as well. How the hands of God, or the hands of the divine, or whatever you want to call it, or these hands, hands of the tarot, are telling us just by their grasps or lack thereof. So let me know if you have had any problems with the aces, or if they were probably the easiest card that you had upon learning the tarot. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents. Please feel free to leave your comments below. I would love to hear from you. Much love.